This is why I film inside. Hello and welcome back to another video. If you have been learning Dutch or speaking Dutch, whether you've been doing it for a short time, whether you've been doing it for a long time, you may be aware of your accent or certain sounds that you're having trouble with. Maybe other people have commented on your accent. I know for me, I was quite self-conscious of my accent and I made a serious effort to try and lessen it as much as possible. You don't have to get rid of your accent. These are some of the things that I did to help me speak more clearly and be better understood, I guess. That was probably my biggest thing with my accent. So without anything further, let's get into the video. Now, if you have just started learning Dutch, this is the perfect time to start working on your pronunciation and your accent. There'll be a lot of people that will get a grip of the language first, start learning words and sentences and speaking and all of those things, and then they have to go back and unlearn a lot of different habits. So if you've just started, this is the perfect video for you, just beginning out with Dutch. Implement some of these things and these tips and you'll be off on the right foot, I guess. You've set a really good foundation for the language and you'll be able to build on top of that. So the number one thing that I can suggest that will help you with your accent is the Fluent Forever deck, and it's the Dutch pronunciation trainer. This is gold. I talk about it all the time, and it really was key for me in understanding the parts of language that exist in Dutch that don't exist in English, and training your ear to hear the subtle differences between ow and o and ow and all of the new sounds that exist in Dutch, and being able to correlate them to sounds that you may have heard in English. How I see it, if you can train your ear to hear the differences, then essentially you're training your brain at the same time to be able to make the differences, because you'll be able to hear yourself if you're making them correctly or not. This is the number one thing I would suggest to do. It really gets your ears ready for the language and teaches you how to find the differences in that language. It saves you so much time. Go and get the trainer. It's the best thing you'll do. What are the different aspects of speech that make up what we're hearing and what we're trying to understand? So when you're listening to a conversation or an audiobook or a podcast, you're hearing all of these things at the same time. So once you know what they are, you can isolate them and you can concentrate just on those parts of speech and really hone your skills and train your ability to break it apart, I guess, and concentrate on different aspects of it. So let's break it down. What are the parts of speech that we're hearing? The first one is stress. Now, stress can be a whole word in the sentence, or stress can be a syllable within a word. And this is when extra emphasis is placed on that part. So take, for example, the word interessant in Dutch. Interessant is not interessant. It's not interessant. So you can hear that if I change the stress for the different part of the word, it doesn't actually sound right anymore. Interessant is where the stress is placed at the first syllable of the word and the rest of the word follows. This is kind of a generic pattern that you can follow with Dutch. It's not always right. So what I suggest you do is listen to a piece of audio and listen for the stress in the word. Use a piece of audio you can slow down to the pace that you're comfortable with and a pace where you can actually pick out where is the stress falling. The next part of speech is tone. A language like Mandarin relies heavily on tones to convey meaning. Thankfully, we do not have that in Dutch or English, but tone can be rising, which indicates a question. It can also be falling, which indicates a statement. So listening for the tone and the flow and almost like the music of the language is a really good way to start picking up the subtleties of how people speak. Pitch is obviously how high someone talks and how low someone's voice is. So this one probably isn't incredibly important in sounding like a native. You will have your own pitch in the way that you speak. So pitch is another part of speech, but may or may not be so important in making you sound more natural. Speed, again, very self-explanatory. Does someone speak fast? Does someone speak slow? Do they speed up in parts of the sentences? Do they slow down in parts of sentences? Speed will have a lot to do with connected speech and how words actually flow together. We have this obviously a lot in English where one sentence kind of sounds like one word. So listening out for the speed of how someone speaks and how those words can change when the end of one word starts connecting with the start of another word. Rhythm in speech is like the beat of how someone speaks. This can be a combination of when sound and silences meet each other, when people have natural pauses in speech, and a combination of all of it coming together like a bit of a song and a tune. Once you know these major parts of speech, you can start taking things like audiobooks, podcasts, recordings of conversations, and focus on one aspect of that part of speech and really listen for it. Do purposeful practice in listening to how people speak, not what they're saying. Don't try and comprehend what they're saying. I really just want you to be doing pronunciation practice as a separate aspect of your language training. After you've listened to it a few times and after you've got a feeling for what's coming next, where the pauses are and things like that, then you can start pausing it after a sentence and repeating it. Pausing and repeating, pausing and repeating. And this is tedious and it's boring. I know that. I have done it, but it's worth it. Once you feel like you're really getting into the rhythm, what I want you to do is play the sentences, but you're actually going to speak over the top of them. And you're going to try and match all of these things at the same time. So you're going to try and match your speed, your pitch, your tone, your pauses, which is also very important. This is going to be a really good way to work out where your accent is different from the audio that you're trying to follow. Are you speaking too fast? Are you not putting pauses in the right place? Is your stress a little bit different to what you're hearing? Are your sounds that you're making a little bit different to what you're hearing? Another way to change this up, but still doing pronunciation practice, is to start reading aloud and not like grabbing a book and whispering or mumbling to yourself. I mean, putting yourself in a position where you're super, super comfortable, maybe you're alone, and you can actually project your voice. Reading aloud is a fantastic way to not only practice your reading abilities, but to hear what you're saying and to slow it down. Practice pronunciating those words as clearly as possible. No one speaks like this in a conversation, so it's very good to deliberately have some time where you slow your speech down and you practice those sounds that are really difficult very slowly and very deliberately. If you're reading at the same time, so say for example you're listening to an audiobook and you've got the physical copy, you can then check how you're reading the book aloud with the audio version and do what I said in tip 1, where you start shadow speaking with the speaker. You'll also get a better idea of which spelling combinations you have the most trouble with. This is quite handy to know if you can think of every time there's a word with a UI in it, I cannot make that sound. Or every time there's a word with a SCH sound in it, I can't make that sound. So these things are very handy to know, because then you can go onto places like YouTube and find very specific videos about how to produce those sounds. I used these when I was doing the Tweeklanken, the Diphthongs in Dutch, and I will link some videos below doing the Diphthongs, where you can see the shape of the mouth. She talks about how to flow from one sound to another and very, very clearly pronounces these sounds, which helped me a lot, seeing someone being able to do it, hearing the correct sound, and then repeating it myself over and over and over again. I was aware that those were the sounds I had the most difficulty with, following both of these tips. So shadow speaking with audio and realizing I'm not making the sound that they're making, but also reading a book and physically seeing the spelling combinations that I was having the most trouble with. Reading aloud is really good for your facial muscles, your tongue muscles, your cheek muscles, all of those things. They're going to get a workout. It's going to feel weird at first, but that means you're doing the right thing. It's meant to feel uncomfortable. You've never made these sounds before, so keep going. That's a good sign. That's a good thing. Another difficult sound for me was the rolling R sound, so the r. I knew that I had difficulty with this sound, so I was able to isolate that sound, practice it, but I was also able to write my own sentences and find words that I had a lot of difficulty with and make up my own sentences and then repeat them over and over and over again. So having a lot of sentences with the R word in it and being able to isolate that sound and practice it because I knew that I had difficulty with it. Now, once you've had some time practicing your accent, listening to a lot of audio, reading aloud, finding where your faults are, it's time to start shadowing a native speaker. So these previous examples have the potential to make you sound a little bookish, a little stiff, a little bit too well pronounced. And that's not how people speak. It's not how Dutch people speak. It's not how English people speak. So the next best thing is to find a native speaker that you feel comfortable with, or using an iTalki community tutor and having these conversations where they say natural pieces of speech and you literally repeat after them how they would speak in a conversation. Don't get them to pronounce their words very well. Don't get them to slow down. Don't get them to change anything about the way that they naturally speak. This is going to be the key to getting you sounding more natural, more confident, and more like a native speaker. Be very aware of how words join together. That happens more often in natural speak rather than audio or podcasts. These are places where people are very pronounced, they want to be heard, they want to be speaking very clearly. Conversational speech is another ballgame. Copy those patterns, copy the pauses that people have in natural speech, copy those little sounds that happen between words when people are thinking about what they want to say. These are going to be little key bits to making your speech sound even better than what it does now, which is quite ironic because there's actually a lot of work and effort that goes into sounding natural and normal. So that's how language works. I hope that these tips help you. I hope that they give you the confidence to start practicing your pronunciation. I hope that they give you the tools to find those really difficult parts of speech for you and isolate them. I hope that with these tips that you guys can start improving your accent and be heard better, be understood better, have more confidence talking to people, all of those great things that come along with improving your accent when speaking another language. Let me know in the comments below, what is the most difficult part of Dutch that you have trouble making? Is it the g? Is it the sch? Is it the ow, o, ow sounds? Is it the r, like me? Let me know in the comments below, or share some of your tips that have helped you master these sounds. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you can think of anyone that this video might help, share it, send it to them. If you like language learning videos and learning about the Dutch language, please remember to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye. 100 million dogs barking all the time.